Hello, every pony. Board Brony here. Alright, first of all, if any of you have not yet watched the videos about the big project and the auditions and whatnot, you should probably check them out. It's pretty exciting, and I know you totally want to be involved. I mean, who wouldn't, after all, right? I mean, come on. It's kind of a big deal. It's pretty awesome. Come on. You know you want to. Come on. Well, not like right now. You gotta finish this video, and then you gotta go do that. So you need to go do that as soon as this video's over. Alright? But anyway, after a fair amount of waiting, we are back to On a Cross and Arrow. Assuming my throat will stop acting up. Unfortunately, no alcohol tonight. Making do with soda. Alright. So, it's a very quick recap. Where we last left off, Pinky had gone bolting out of the brush they were hiding in, and had gone and found her male alter ego, and the fate of Ponyville was pretty much sealed. Now, Applejack, in disguise, is out trying to find them and save the world from the impending party doom. I just made that up. Did that sound pretty good? I thought so. Alright. Now, like I said, my throat's bothering me a bit, so I'll probably be stopping to grab a drink of my beverage a little more often than usual. And it has been a little bit, so I might be a little rusty with some of my voices. Not that they were that good to begin with, but you know what I mean. Anyway, I think it's time to get this started. So, On a Cross and Arrow, Part 8. Over the Hills. Well, tarnation, Applejack grumbled in her head. Not only were Pinky not there, but they all had to see me in this frou-frou thing. Besides the removal of her hat once again, it was the only thing that they had added to her appearance. The dress was the same one that Rarity had begun to distract all the ponies as they waited. She had originally meant to have Fluttershy keep it, but as every pony agreed, this was an emergency. It looks better on her than it does me anyway, any day of the week, she continued thinking, looking down at the dappled yellow thing. It had a white frilly border to its hem that made her think of pampered field fillies from the south, belles who did nothing but roam the hills behind their houses and occasionally broke out in song. Not feeling that part, especially not the singing. But she hadn't protested at the moment. It had simply gone on over her head, pulled and tugged for a second, and then she'd been out the exit like a shot, galloping at full speed towards Ponyville. And not a moment too soon, she gagged. That's a weird word to use for that. She was charging to find the twin bubbles of impending party disaster had already left Sugar Cube Corner before she'd gotten there. But as long as she didn't have any more interruptions, she'd be able to catch up to her friend before the both of them blew every pony out of the water. At least, the lead she'd been given was easy. There was only one party supplier in Ponyville, and that was the Jester's Joke Shop. She had made a beeline for the establishment as soon as she had left the bakery. As Applejack got closer, she began to notice that ponies were staring. Not directly at her, to her relief, but off in the distance, down the street she was running through. Out of curiosity, she skidded to a stop next to a pair of young, gangly fillies who were also looking off in the same direction. "What's all the commotion?" she panted, trying to catch her breath. "Something coming this way?" "Not one something!" The taller of the two girls, an orange unicorn with a long green mane and lazy voice. Oh, God, really? What would he sound like as a girl? How in the world does one do snips and scales as a girl? Honestly. Alright, I'm not even going to try, because that just would be an exercise in futility. "Not one something," the taller of the two girls, an orange unicorn with a long green mane and lazy voice, proceeded to drawl. "Two somethings!" "Yeah!" her green friend exclaimed, spiky red hair bouncing around a chubby-cheeked face. "There were two berry bubbles just now, and I heard them talking about a party." That didn't even sound like a girl. Alright, never mind. She bunched her hoofs together as if she was about to explode into song. Alright, we're kind of bursting into song. "Whenever there's a berry bubble bash, every pony has fun. But if there's going to be two of them, it's going to be awesome. Ah, some Dr. Seuss shit right there. All right. The farmer found herself doing a double take as she recognized the cutie marks on the ponies she was conversing with. Proceeding to shake her head, she simply replied, "Thanks, y'all. I was just curious." They didn't even register her leaving, the cloud of dust she kicked up settling over their bodies like so much unused furniture. As she turned down the street the shop was on, she encountered a mare escaping from the opposite direction. "They can take everything!" she was panicking. "Just don't let them get near me!" Applejack had to blink a few times at the strange pony. She'd never met her before, either here or in her own world. But that apron she had been wearing had seemed important. Turning her head back to the shop, she then understood why. Just now leaving the Jester's joke shop were a pair of bubblegum bronies, saddlebags packed to bursting with various items of one sort or another. Hanging on the store's door was a sign that read "out of stock." The fleeing filly had been the store owner, scared of the fact that the number of most loyal customers had suddenly doubled, and that by working together, they had completely cleaned out her shop of each and every party and prank implement left in Ponyville. Barry still took the lead. Pinky was apparently was more than willing to follow him about wherever he went. They turned back down the street toward Sugar Cube Corner, heedless of the dozens of staring ponies. They still wore those overly happy smiles and content faces that they'd been wearing when he'd first left the hedge with her in tow, acting like nothing was wrong with the world. That really got the orange equine's dander up. With a snort, the farmer galloped straight towards the pair, fully intending on tackling her pink pony friend and whisking her out of Ponyville. At least, that had been the plan. She thought it was a good plan, simple and straightforward. It didn't account for the twins suddenly looking off to the side and abruptly changing their course, as they chanted in stereo, "Ooh, slushies!" "Oh, pony feathers," the apple bucker groaned, as she landed in the dirt. "Rarity's going to have a fit about this dress." She raised her head and tried to focus her spinning green eyes on what the two were doing. For a split second she saw 4 blurs of pink, which was too terrifying to even contemplate. Focusing harder, she saw that they had actually stopped moving, sitting on their haunches in front of a frozen treat stand. The stallion manning the place looked from one pony to the other, fear evident on his face. "I'll have an extra large cotton candy swirl with some cherry cola," Pinky cheered, a hoof pointing at the named item on the chalkboard menu. "Make it a double for me," Barry added, his curled mane bobbing as he rapidly nodded. "Double the pleasure." That's just weird." The pink mare's eyes lit up. "Double the fun," she continued in a sing-song voice, which wasn't quite what I sounded like there. They then pressed their heads together and sang out the rest of the jingle in harmony, looking at each other mischievously. What? That's the stateness of the greatness of Bubble Mare Gum? Okay, that joke actually, like, I think that caused physical pain. Uh, that's the stateness of the greatness of Bubble Mare Gum. Oh, it hurts. Alright. The two then proceeded to giggle madly, giving every pony who was watching the scene an extra case of the uneasy shivers. Or at least the chance that Applejack needed to calmly get to her hooves and walk over to the party ponies, seating herself right next to the female one. "Pinkie Pie," she stated in a flat voice, "what in all of the blossoming apple trees in Equestria are you doing?" "Oh, I'm going to have a super-duper special party with my new friend Barry Bubble. Want to come and help?" was the reply she got, before that frizzy mane turned, blue eyes seeing her friend for real. "Oh!" Pink exclaimed joyfully. "Hi, Applejack." "Hi, Sugar Cube," Applejack replied. "Oh!" Barry exclaimed joyfully. "Hi, Applejack." "Hiya, Haystack," Applejack replied. Okay, time for a drink. Okay. The farm filly's eyes shot open, her mane standing on end as she recognized that drawl. Slowly she tilted her head to the right, peering past Pinky and seeing her male reflection doing much the same over Barry's shoulder. "Oh, I see what happened there. Okay. I get it. So the reply to Barry was from other Applejack. Okay. That's clever. I like that. Oh, howdy there, Cousin JJ. The Orange Stallion spoke. Fancy meeting you here. I was hearing a bunch of commotion all the way from the market, and I had to see what was going on. His green eyes then fixed themselves back on his colt friend before switching to gaze at the Femi party pony, and then back and forth. But land sakes, I sure weren't expecting anything like this. You're telling me, the blonde mare agreed. I'm awful sorry about all this. I had no idea that there'd be another pony like my friend Pinkie Pie here. Otherwise, I would have never brought her to Ponyville in the first place. But JJ, Pinkie Pie gushed loudly. One could practically hear the quotation marks. I thought that we arrived here knowing that there were going to be other ponies like... She was silenced by an apple. One good thing about the dress, AJ reflected, was that it possessed pockets for extra emergency apples. The draft horse had to blink a few times at the scene. Why did this seem so familiar? So, Barry, he started slowly, fixing his friend with a gaze. What were y'all planning on doing with your new filly friend? The pink colt stood on his hind hooves. No pony knew where he had suddenly obtained a skillet and a white chef's uniform, complete with apron. She's kind of new in town, you see. Wait, what? What? I don't quite understand. Okay, I think a reference is being made here that I don't get. Alright, I'm just going to deliver this line normally and let you guys who get the reference figure it out from there. She's kind of new in town, you see. Me and my friend Pinkie here, we're going to shake things up here in Ponyville tonight. He drawled in a depressingly hokey Emerald Grassy accent. So it's some kind of chef. Maybe if I watched the cooking channels or something, I might get this. Anyway. Tell me, Applejack, are you ready to buck it up a notch? Barry tossed a clove of garlic into the pan, which exploded with a bam. Was that the Bam guy? Oh, okay. I kind of know who that is then. I don't know how he talks, though, so... Ugh. Sorry, everybody. Every pony. Sorry, every pony. God, I gotta quit doing that. Every time I use the wrong form of that, someone always calls me out, so I need to focus on that. Anyway, Applejack was not ready, as evidenced when he stuffed an apple of his own into the pink equine's mouth. His Femi doppelganger couldn't help but chuckle at the sight. His ears perked at the sound, and he looked back at Pinkie Pie, who had begun chewing through her red fruit gag. Alright, weird mental image. I apologize. He snickered before joining in on the chuckling. Oh, land's sakes. No, that's Applejack. So, only slightly different from what I just did. Ah, land's sakes, the orange filly sighed, wiping an imaginary tear. Them party ponies. Can't live with 'em. Can't live without 'em, he finished, before looking back at the female farmer herself. His eyes widened. That's a new outfit on you, cousin. Looks like something a friend of mine would make. Oh! AJ found herself blushing and looking down, having forgotten that she was still trussed up like a school filly on a first date. Thank you kindly. I'm just borrowing it from a friend. It ain't really my style, you know. Now that I look at it, I kinda... Personally, I think it looks pretty nice on you, the stallion replied, his hooves crossing into his signature easygoing pose. She had cause to blink. Did I just go and tell myself I looked pretty? Cousin JJ. Now the orange workhorse faltered, the yoke around his neck seemingly weighing him down. Since you're here, I figure now's as good a time as any to tell you. Well, he gave a sigh as he tilted his head down, trying to corral his words. It was here that the farm filly began to blush something fierce, the hole in her stomach yawning open ferociously. I hope he ain't about to say what I think he's about to say. I don't even feel that way about him. I wanted to apologize, he finally blurted. For the other day. I had no right to go out and be nasty and suspicious about you. When y'all up and disappeared that time in the market, Applebuck was as sore toward me as a Pegasus who'd forgot to flap. His blond mane ruffled as he shook his head from side to side. After thinking about it, I realized he was right. I'm not quite sure what came over me that day. It was improper of me, and my grandpappy always told me to treat a lady with proper respect. So it's with that respect that I say, I'm sorry. Can we try again, cousin? Applejack blinked, her eyes wide. On the one hoof, she had been relieved to discover that it was not in fact a declaration of affection as she had feared. On the other, she was rather confused about what she was feeling. The earlier pit in her stomach was no longer present. What she was feeling right now, she hadn't the words for. It was different. A warmth. Like she just had a piping hot cupcake straight from the pan. Or a slice of familiar, comforting apple pie. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, it was family, she realized, now recognizing the tug she had felt whenever Applebuck had been around her. Somewhere along the line, she really had started thinking of her other self as a cousin, and she realized. If not something closer. And his apology just now, it felt as if a great big blanket had been dropped over her body, soothing and warm. She'd been accepted. Sure we can, cousin, she finally replied at length, a genuine smile crossing her face. We're apples. We apples have got to stick together after all. Apology accepted, Cousin Applejack. The stallion smiled in return, a look of relief evident on his face. Glad to hear that, Cousin J.J. Aww! A cheerful voice sounded from the side. It was interrupted by the sound of a straw slurping before it continued. Aren't they just so cute when they make up? They are! Hey, Applejack, you and Cousin J.J. want to help us with our party tonight? You can supply the apples for bobbing for apples. This was also punctuated by another slurp. AJ was quickly reminded of her mission as she saw Pinkie Pie and Berry Bubble sitting together off to the side, watching the two orange horses intently, their slushies now in hoof. Oh, that reminds me, she quickly started, coughing behind a hoof. Pinkie, we need to talk, you and I. Let's go off someplace away from here before something else happens. The insinuation appeared to fly right over her friend's head. But JJ, Barry and me need to get back to Sugar Cube Corner. How else are we going to throw our super-duper special hybrid berry-rific pinkalicious berry pinky bubble pie bash party without Pinkie Pie party portion involved? My thinks hurt. Alright. I was kind of hoping you wouldn't actually, Sugar Cube. The farmer got her face right up in the pink pony's own. Pinkie, I just don't think Ponyville's ready for the two of you. I mean, your parties are always a hoot and a holler and a go-to, and I bet his are too. But with two of you working together, y'all might wind up making a party that no pony can handle. Aw, JJ has a point, Barry chimed in. The way he had said her alias made her wonder. What if we do overdo it? Maybe no one pony should have all the party. Now, Haystack, Male Jack offered. Alright. You know, we're not doing anything at the farm this evening. You and your friend could work on a party there together, and we just invite the guys. Just a friendly little shindig. How's that sound, cousin? Darn my tendency to offer my support. Well, while that sounds mighty kind of you, cousin, me and Pinkie really have to head out of town today. No, we don't. Sugar Cube, please zip it, AJ whispered, bringing a hoof up to intercept. She then turned back to her double. Besides, you sure y'all got everything done? Got the pigs all slopped? A nod. Applebuck got them this morning. Green eyes were narrowed. Got the trees fertilized? A raised eyebrow. Red Gala took care of that earlier. Pinkie's blue eyes shifted back to her friend. Y'all done baking for today? Barry joined her, his own bright orbs joining in watching the verbal tennis match. Got the last Dutch pie out of the oven not 40 minutes ago. Still fresh and hot, if you'd like to come back to the cart and have a bite. And suffer another gut-wrenching, indecisive sibling moment with Applejack? Or with Applebuck? No thanks. That was inner monologue, by the way. Desperate, Applejack raked her mind for another chore, any chore that might not have been done yet. Then one hit her. What about the four-leaf clover seeds? Y'all get those germinated in time for the Derby? Oh, pshaw, The stallion waved a hoof at her. That's a right piece of pie right there. We only ever grow 3 at a time. Just for the... He paused. His hat suddenly tilted to the side as his eyes widened. Wait. Hang on just one cotton-picking minute. Only me, Red Gala, and the mayor know about us supplying the clovers for the Clover Derby. How do you know, Cousin JJ? Her ears drooped in hopelessness, as she realized that the very same fact was also true in her world. For a depressingly long time, the Clover Derby had been a dismal failure, year after year, until the mayor had approached the Apple family with an offer to help increase the odds of finding a four-leaf clover. She had given them leeway on their farm taxes in return for a small number of the rare plants to be grown every year for the Derby. They had accepted, but had kept it hush-hush. Not that AJ had minded giving competitors a fair chance at getting out of the plants, getting one of the plants, but still. Apples growing clovers? She didn't really want that getting around. And apparently, neither had her double, as he drilled a look of pure shock and curiosity in her direction. It's a mystery, Pinky offered, bouncing up between the two orange ones, Barry in step behind her, and one that you're going to have to wait for. The farming colt gave Pinky a look that said she just claimed she was a moon pony. Really? How do y'all figure that? Because my hooves are itchy, she sang, shuffling her feet in the dirt. Instantly, Applejack's ears perked, as she began scanning the ponies on the street. And that means you're going to have to chase us. Pinky, the blonde mare gaped, looking warily around with panic in her eyes. You don't know anything about your sense. Why can't you keep your pie hole shut and let it all... Duskshine suddenly rounded about from behind a building's corner, spines perched on his back. His expression had been calm and content, at least up to when he spied the open-doored state of the joke shop. His purple eyes cast round the crowd, and instantly zoned in on her own green ones. There were 4 ponies in front of that slushy stand. 2 orange, 2 pink, all earth ponies. 1 filly and 1 colt per color. The mane styles and eyes and cutie marks all matched each other, and the orange mare had spotted him. Sorry, Sugar Cubes, she suddenly blurted, teeth latching around the pink filly's frizzy tail. Need to move 'em out. Bye, Barry, the party pony called out, waving cheerfully as she was hauled away tail first at breakneck speed. See you. When should we do this again? Bye, Pinky, Barry Bubble called back, waving in return, a half-finished slush in the other hoof. We should. I'll be waiting. Applejack watched the rapid retreating pair with disbelieving eyes, before he started looking about to see what had set them off. Upon sighting his unicorn friend's own wide-eyed gaping expression, he called out, Dusk, what in tarnations? Applejack. After them! He didn't need to be told twice. His hooves thundered as he took off, hot on their trail, Dusk following him from behind, a startled dragoness holding on for dear life. Trailing in the rear of the pack, a perky pink colt bounced along at his own pace, happily humming a tune to himself. Consarn this dress, torn ever made with running in mind. When Pinky had mentioned itchy hooves, she had hoped against all hope that it wouldn't mean copious amounts of running for the two of them, as it had in the past. But alas, that was not to be. Once again, the Pinky sense had proved itself infallible. Unfortunately. She had managed to make it to the outskirts of Ponyville, her friend's body flailing in the air as she continually hauled her by the tail, the filly's body surprisingly light. So far they were making good time with their head start. She had hoped it would be enough. However, that hope didn't hold out long as she heard the heavy hoofsteps of her male alter ego slowly becoming more and more distinct as he caught up to them. Cousin JJ, he called out, I don't know what this is all about, but if y'all come back we can talk this over. Sorry, Sugar Cube, can't do that, she replied through a mass of pink frizz. What was that? Pinky cupped her hooves as she called back. She said, sir, she explained helpfully. Why not? The Stetson-bearing stallion yelled, at least having the yelling being done in his direction helped in translation. No, say, cousin. That's hard to do. What? She said, That's not at liberty to say cousin, in case you were wondering. I kind of make it out. I can't rightly say I like that answer, cousin. I've got a few questions for you myself. You'll have to wait for another time. What? She said they'll have to wait another time. Sure, sure. Sure, sure. The party pony parroted, hooves and mane waving in the wind. That was Pinkie Pie's shut up, in case you're wondering. Well, if that's how y'all are gonna be... A bit of silence before his voice returned. Then you give me my... Wait, what? Then you give me... The sudden addition of a lisp in her double's voice made alarm bells go off in her head. Instantly, Applejack felt like a sitting duck. Her fears did not go unfounded, as a lasso flew out into the air, casting a thin shadow on the fleeing fillies. As it descended, threateningly above her head, the farmer suddenly bolted off to the side, narrowly avoiding the closing noose. She swore she felt a seam or two rip on the dress's skirt. Pinkie whooped as she was jolted off alongside, body bouncing through the air like a windsock. Pause for a drink. This is a long chapter, too. A few lengths back, the orange stallion's eyes widened as his attempt at capture was evaded. He'd never missed a shot. Then again, he'd never tried to lasso an escaping pony before. Especially not a pony who had managed to surprise him twice in 1 week. She rather reminded him of... well, myself, actually, his mind pondered. Still, he remained hot on their trail. They continued running in a fairly straight direction off towards the Everfree Forest. If he could catch them before they reached there, he'd be in a right happy colt. And he was sure that he'd catch them eventually. He reeled the rope in and started another lasso with spinning. The galloping mare moved in a zigzag pattern as she continued covering ground. I'm getting close to the hedge, but I need to shake my cousin off our tails first before I head in there for real. He's a big boy, and I know that Big Mac has more stamina than me and Pinkie Pie. If Mother Self's more similar to Big Mac than me, will he be able to outrun me? Her ear cocked as she heard the rope whistle again. Pinkie yelled at her, now talking with a piece of her mane in her mouth. I think it's incoming at 5 o'clock, I'm assuming. AJ looked back in time to see a low-flying halo spinning towards her, aimed at her legs. He's trying to hog-tie me, she realized, and braced herself. The lasso actually managed to hook itself around her right hind leg, but before it could draw it tight, she leapt into the air. The noose popped loose as it slipped off in mid-flight. The farm colt in the back almost tripped at his. That should have got her, easily. Cousin JJ sure seems to know her lassos, he found himself thinking as he pulled the rope in for another toss. The pinky earth pony called back to her friend. I've never been in a rodeo before. Woo! Never been in a rodeo before. Whoopee. Alright. The blonde mare looked around the field they were running through for anything. Anything at all. Any obstacle that might help. All that she saw were trees in the distance. Wait. There was one tree that was closer than that. And as it drew closer still, she recognized its breed and began angling herself towards it. They were upon it in no time, and it was only here that Applejack paused in her running, at least long enough to give the tree a good old-fashioned Apple family tree buck. She then set off flying again, Pinkie's momentary rest on the ground quickly interrupted. Male Applejack closed in on the tree, and arrived just in time for the large plant to finish its shivering, pelting the pony with dozens upon dozens of bumpy, bright green, Bodark fruits. Quite literally, horse apples. He yiped and stumbled, doing his best to avoid the falling crop. Here and there a Bodark broke open on his flank or his snout, the heavy fruit giving him thumps, but thankfully nothing that would leave more than a bruise. For a second he almost lost his hat. Then he was off again, the rain of horse apples having done its job and slowed him down. He could still see the escaping ponies, though, and worked his legs even harder as he tried to close in. She sure bucks like an apple, he found himself thinking once again. I've got no doubt now. She is family. Swine tarnation, she's so scared of dusk. He didn't whip the lasso back out as he drew closer. Instead, he tried to come within conversation distance again, his voice ragged from heavy breathing. "Cousin!" he yelled. "Come on back now. Let's stop this foolishness. Dusk won't hurt you none, I promise. Why can't we talk this over like normal ponies?" "'Cause we ain't normal ponies," his doppelganger cried out, her natural honesty slipping out around her friend's tail fur. "What was that?" Pinky lifted her head. "The third, 'cause we ain't..." "For Pete's sake, Miss Pie, y'all don't need to talk to me like a mule with a toothache now, you hear?" The colt was seeing more and more of Barry inside the bubblegum pony every time she opened her mouth, and a little of that good-natured irritation he usually reserved for him was slipping out as a result. The filly spat out the pieces of hair that had been in her mouth and drawled with a surprisingly good approximation of her friend's voice. "She said 'cause we ain't normal ponies." I think it was pretty good, like, high-pitched drawl thing. Applejack rolled her eyes. Here she was, trying to shake off her stallion self, and Pinky was acting as a go-between. Her legs were beginning to burn, and she was pretty certain that the sundress she had on was looking like it had gone through a war. "Something's got to give," she groused. "I could maybe run faster if I didn't have this frou-frou thing on, but he ain't gonna give me time to slip it off. If only I could find a good way to..." She saw a dark line come into view across the field. Memories began to pop up. She knew where she was. This was one of Bartley Oates' fields, and the formation she was coming across was in fact a 3-yard deep, dried-up creek bed. She remembered playing around in it as a filly and taking naps under the many trees that grew along its edge. And just like that, she had a plan. She turned her head to look back at her opposite gender, her eyes narrowed into a smile on her lips. "Y'all hear Rocky, cousin?" "What'd she say?" "She said..." The pink filly looked back at her friend before turning her head back around and giving the stallion a matching grin. "Y'all feeling lucky, cousin?" She then yipped as she was yanked forward, her body rippling like a flag in the breeze as the farm filly put on an extra burst of speed, galloping towards one of the trees lining the creek. Jack gaped for a second before increasing his velocity to match. As they drew closer, AJ mumbled through her lips. "Hold on tight, Sugar Cube," she called out to Pinky before snapping her neck forward. With her mouth full of tail, the apple pony wasn't really able to retrieve her own rope, so she had to make do with what she had. The party horse barely had time to squeal as she suddenly found herself being tossed around in circles, apparently being used for a substitute lasso. I can really see that happening, actually. As they finally arrived at the tree, right before it looked like they were about to plummet into the creek bed, Applejack tossed her pink friend into the air. For her part, Pinky held up remarkably well as she caught a branch in her mouth, her body stretching like taffy as the orange equine pushed off and propelled herself into the air. As she hit the apex of her hang time, she gave another yank to her lasso, causing the pony to dislodge herself. The pair landed on the other side of the creek with nary a scratch. As AJ looked back, she found herself grinning as her alter ego tossed a lasso at the same branch, apparently intent on beating her cousin at her own game. "Sorry, Sugar Cube. Despite everything about the two of us that's still alike, you and me still have differences. You're a boy, so you got the endurance that I know a stallion has, but I'm a mare. And I've got something you'll never have. And that's a different center of balance." Applejack watched as her doppelganger pushed off into the air. However, his leg strength, coupled with his top-heavy musculature, worked against him as he took off much faster than intended, the rope looping him up and around the tree branch and giving him a face-to-face meeting with Mr. Trunk, landing with a hefty whomp on the opposite side. With that, the farmer pony let out a whoop of country cheer, Pinky yelling alongside her, as they galloped off into the bushes, unseen and unhindered. There was a moment or so of silence, or at least he would have liked for a moment or so of silence. The ringing in his ears would just not let up. Applejack stumbled as he peeled himself off the tree's bark, green eyes crossed. He was aware that somewhere in there his hat had fallen off. Right now, at this moment, his vision was too impaired to go looking for it. He was pretty content to just sit there on his haunches, leaning back, waiting for the world to come back into focus again. There was a ragged breathing as another stallion clumsily ran up to join him. Dusk wasn't built for this kind of marathon running, and it showed as he came into view, bags under his eyes, his mane and tail limp with sweat. Even his horns seemed to droop. Spines was in no better condition, her eyes having shrunk to pupils, claws digging deep into the lavender pony's hide. What? The unicorn was having trouble catching his breath. Where did they go, AJ? The farmer barely registered his presence, doing an impressive imitation of Derpy-Doo. Derpy-Doo? One eye focused on him, while the other seemed to inspect a random bird in the sky. "What'd you say?" he shouted. "I said, where did they go?" The student raised his voice, already suspecting the worst. How does hay flow? I don't know. I always thought it stood still myself. No, the fillies, AJ. Dusk stomped a hoof in frustration. The fillies got away, didn't they? The flies got to pay. You say, they're mighty annoying, I agree, but... not this again. He grumped, trotting past him and scanning the field with wide purple eyes. We were so close, Applejack. So close. I actually saw them this time. Oh, and Dusk. Sorry about letting Cousin JJ and her friend get away. I still don't know what this is all about, though. What happened, anyway? He looked back at the apple bucker and seemed to notice for the first time his friend's condition, a look of concern going over his face. She didn't happen to buck you, did she? Huh? The orange colt blinked before finally focusing both eyes on him. Oh, nah, she just went and pulled a fast one on me, Saul. Oh, by the way, you seen my hat? Dusk sighed before wincing and looking back at Spines. You can let go now, hun. I'm kind of afraid to. If I went and put a hole in your hide from hanging on too tight. She was giving a look, and she obediently hopped down. The magician turned back to Applejack and began inspecting him for bruises. So, Cousin JJ. That's right. Oh, yeah, that's right, he began. She showed up in town a couple of days ago. I'd never seen her before, but she said she were part of the family. Just had the farthest farm. I could never make it to a reunion. She's an apple, though, through and through. His eyes unfocused for a bit as he recalled the chase. I tried to lasso her, but she avoided every one, and then she went and bucked a horse apple tree on me. A hoof rubbed one of his shoulders. Darn near tripped me up there. But I stayed on her tail right up to about here, actually. The unicorn raised an eyebrow as he looked behind him at the creek bed. Up to here? She made it across and you didn't? It was super amazing! A new voice dropped in from above. Applejack was all like, vroom! And then Cousin JJ was all like, vroom! And they ran up for that tree, and then JJ used Pinky as a rope and swung her way across, and Applejack tried to, but he was too big, and he went whoop! And then landed back up against the tree, which looked like fun, except for the landing on your face part. All three looked up to see Berry Bubble hanging down from the sycamore's branches. They didn't ask how he'd gotten up there, as the pink pony fell from that height, accompanied by a few leaves. It was Berry being Berry. That was all they needed to know. Yeah, what he said. Applejack flushed slightly under his yoke, at his less than flattering defeat. Having been outsmarted by a filly, family or not, still stung something fierce. I see. At any rate, Dusk shook his mane. Applejack, you did notice the resemblances, right? Resemblances? You know, your cousin is an orange earth pony with a blonde mane just like you, right? True, but the same can be said for my cousin Apple Cobbler. She's also got green eyes and freckles like you, remember? In case you all forgot, partner, Red Gala's got 'em too. And I highly doubt you're forgetting that. I've seen the looks you've thrown at my big sister. Not the point. The unicorn gave a hoof swipe. And she's got the same kind of accent that you've got, doesn't she? Haystack, I fail to see your point. In case you haven't noticed, all us apples speak the same. And it tain't no accent. Ugh, never mind. Apparently Applejack would be a hard sell. He quickly pointed a hoof at Berry. What about him? You saw his friend, right? Didn't you find it a bit suspicious they were so similar to each other? At this, the farmer brought a hoof up to his chin. Now that y'all mention it, it did seem a mite bit strange. I mean, I understand that any pony who saw two berries bouncing around the street together would have to, go to freaking like a striped ape. One's a bit much already. What in the world would we have done with two of 'em? And you, Berry, the lavender pony turned his head to face his perky pony pal. Where did you find your companion in the first place? Bubble leapt to his hoofs as he happily answered. Oh, she hopped out of a bush! Stares all around. She... what now? Spines asked. Well, you see, it kind of went like this. I was on my way to Zakora's hut to see if he had any good berries that I could use in my next batch of cupcakes. But while I was on my way there, I saw I had a new kind of berry sense combo that I'd never had before. My hind legs spun in place, then my forelegs, and then my whole body spun me around like a tornado. And when it stopped, I saw this bush, and I figured that since my berry sense never usually goes off without some pony around, there must be some pony around hiding. So I go up to the bush and say, hello, is there some pony there? But if there isn't, I totally understand. Then I talked about throwing a party for them in Ponyville, and then boing, she hopped out. She told me your name was Pinkie Pie and that she'd love to help me hold a party, so we went back into town and we went over to Sugar Cube Corner. We made plans on making a brand new kind of party that the likes of that Ponyville had never seen, and we went to the Jetcher's joke shop, and everybody kept staring at us, and then Barry, Applejack stuffed another apple in the stallion's mouth. I think we get the picture. Dusk, however, pressed in. You said she jumped out of a bush. Barry took a bite of his apple and munched before going, Yep. On your way to Zacorn's. Yes, sir, Bob. On the edge of the Everfree Forest. Uh-huh. Ran into a pink party pony who looks just like me, talks just like me, loves to party just like me, and even has the same cutie mark as me. Where? The book colt demanded, grabbing his friend and shaking by the shoulders. Tell me, Barry, where's the bush? Dusk, the farmer gaped, before taking the dark purple tail in his mouth and tucking him away from the fluffy mane one. I don't think I'm following here. You're not saying that Miss Pie is actually dangerous, are you? It's not just her. He turned to face the orange one again, eyes wide and expression panicked. Over the past few days, strange ponies, strange fillies, have been showing up all over Ponyville. Butterscotch, you heard about his girlfriend? Blitz got kicked in the face by one of them, who then escaped with a sonic rain boom. Elusive has a mare who looks just like him visit his shop, and they fall head over heels with each other. Your cousin shows up and outmaneuvers you, the king of all things country, and now there are 2 Barry Bubbles. While Applejack was left trying to imagine what a female Rainbow Blitz would look like, Dusk turned back towards his perky pink companion. And I've been trying, with no luck so far, to find where it is they've been hiding. They must have some kind of plan for us. They wouldn't have caused so much chaos if they hadn't. Tell me, Barry, where did you find this bush? Can you take me to it? If you can, we can finally confront them and put an end to this whole thing. Barry Bubble took in the pleading face of his friend with his blue eyes before he scrunched his face up trying to think. He dramatically hummed, cupping a chin with his hoof, stroking his lip. Spines half suspected a cheesy, curly mustache to appear any second now. After a full minute of thought, the unicorn stallion leaned in. Well, do you remember, Barry? A beat passed before the party pony uncrossed his hooves and shrugged with an apologetic face. Nope. Sorry, Dusk, but all those bushes look alike, you know. They could be anywhere along the Everfree Forest. Sorry I couldn't be of more help. Bye! And with that, Barry got to all fours and skipped away back in the direction of Ponyville, singing La 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 as he went. Dusk was left with a wide, gaping look on his face. With no small amount of trepidation, AJ sidled up to him. Dusk? You gonna be alright there, Haystack? But he was... and she... they... and... Gah! The farmer and the dragoness both stepped back a fair distance as the unicorn leapt into the air and exploded, his hide suddenly glowing white hot and his mane and tail transfigured into erupting columns of fire. His eyes turned ruby red as he momentarily lost all focus of rational thought, visions of destruction and frustration stampeding through his mind. And then, just like that, it was over. The student pony collapsed back on the ground, hide and hair singed, and his eyes now was a picture of defeat. The two approached carefully, making sure he didn't have any fireworks left in him. After a few seconds, he looked up at them. They looked back. He let out a sigh. I'm sorry, guys, he apologized. I just don't know anymore. The evidence is all there, but it's like how I was trying to research Barry since a while back. I just can't seem to get anywhere. For every 1 trot forward, it's 3 trots back. Now, but don't beat yourself up about it, Haystack. Applejack soothed, his brow creased with worry. Maybe you're right, and then again, maybe not. I mean, the whole story, well... He redirected his gaze back downwards. I'm just not sure. Some of it makes sense after seeing Barry and Miss Pie. The rest, well... The lavender colt shook his head as he struggled to his feet. Don't worry about it, AJ. I'm not going to. I'm done chasing today. Come on, Spines. He turned around, head hung low in a defeated manner as he began to walk away. We're going home. The dragoness made as if she wanted to say something, but closed her mouth and looked back at the draft horse. He gave her a nod and motioned towards the student. With a return nod, the assistant ran to catch up to her departing friend. The orange stallion gave a sigh as he glanced about. The sun had begun its evening descent, and the light was starting to wane. A glance upwards revealed to him that his hat was hanging off one of the sycamore's tree branches. A quick trot over to the base, and he gave the tree a good hefty buck, enough so to return the favor by leaving a hoof print on its bark. He smiled in satisfaction as his hat floated down from its lodging. As he placed the hat upon his head, he caught himself glancing across the dried-up creek bed once again. "Cousin J.J.," he murmured, the words that Dusk had imparted, that his cousin herself had spoke, danced through his head. "Just what are you, Cousin J.J.?" Pause for a drink. Ugh. "We're home," came the drawl. Every pony's heads perked up as Applejack entered the hedge, mouth still full of Pinky's tail. "Applejack!" Rarity exclaimed, eyes instantly homing in on the dress's tattered condition. "What have you been doing? Oh dear, I'm going to need to completely reseam the entire thing." The farmer spat out the pink frizz before fixing the dressmaker with a weary look. Y'all are welcome to it. Y'all are welcome to it. I'm awful sorry about it, Fluttershy, but it gets kind of unavoidable when you're running for your life." "Oh, it's no problem," the Pegasus soothed, trading glances between AJ and their captive rabbit. "I'm sorry you had to wear it. I know dresses and you usually don't get along." "You had to run?" Dash was instantly up in the blonde mare's face, as Twilight helped Pinky to her feet. "From who? Are they still out there?" "No, I lost them quite a ways back. They still got no clue where we are." AJ allowed a look of pride to grace her features. "Taught 'em a lesson, too. A filly's more incapable of taking care of one stallion, even if they are their double." "Even if they... Oh, no," the student groaned, trotting up to her. "You met your other self again?" "Weren't something we could really avoid, Twi. I mean, he had his heart in the right place at first. He agreed with me that 2 Pinkie Pies were worse than 1. "Oh, come on, JJ. We weren't being that bad," Pinky grumped, facing her rescuer with an accusatory look. "I mean, yeah, sure, we did plan on doing a super-duper spectacular party for every pony in Ponyville to enjoy, and I think we might have scared Mr. and Mrs. Cake. Then we went shopping and bought all the party stuff at the Jester's Joke Shop, and then me and Barry each got a slushie while Applejack and Applejack talked, and then..." The blue Pegasus took the turn of stuffing an apple into the party pony's mouth. "You bought out a joke store? Jeez Louise, talk about your showstoppers." "Were they really being that bad, Applejack?" Fluttershy asked, hat in her hooves, as she watched Rarity assist the farmer in removing the outfit. "I tell you, I went straight to the corner first. They'd already left by then, but every pony in there was twitchier than a rabbit in a viper's pit. And when I followed them to Apricot Avenue... Thank you, Rarity. There were a ton of ponies standing and staring, like they'd just seen Nightmare Moon in a tutu." Alright, that's an interesting mental image. Alright. Rarity blanched as she pulled the dress away from Applejack's form. "Oh my! That must have been quite the scene. Pinky already stands out in a crowd, with 2 of them. Anybody they passed must have surely noticed them. And that's when my cousin shows up. We managed to have a friendly chat, actually, but then he offers to hold this party that Pinky and Barry are planning down at the Acres. And while I'm trying to convince him that he still needs work to do, Dusk comes trotting up, sees me and Pinky, and then goes and tells my other half to chase us." "My hooves itched right before he showed up," Pinky, the pie pony added helpfully. "I just knew chasing was going to be involved." "Dusk? No, not good. Not good at all." Twilight had passed panic some time back, and now was livid. "If every pony in Ponyville knows there's 2 Pinkies now, then it won't take them long to connect the dots, and soon we'll have all of Equestria coming after us." Twilight, we've done our best so far, but it's all coming undone around us," she wailed. Rarity found herself impressed at the sheer amount of drama the purple pony was exuding. "We've been hiding for days, and every day we keep doing something that brings us closer to them. And on top of that, now they've started coming to us." She pointed a hoof over to the hutch, glaring daggers at the white rodent who returned with them with equal force. Twilight, listen, about that. And to top it all off, then that new Pinky sense, what do we call that?" "The Whopper," AJ stated. "Sounds good to me," Pinky happily agreed. "Fine then, the Whopper. Both she and her other half had the same sense, and it went off when they came in close proximity of each other. All it would take is blind luck for one of them to accompany him along the forest edge and set it off again. Pinky's a ticking time bomb waiting to... Twilight! The last word was spoken rather forcefully from a demure set of lungs. All eyes turned to Fluttershy, who was momentarily shrunk from the extra attention. "Yes, Fluttershy?" the unicorn asked, giving the Pegasus an assuring smile. "Well, I was wondering. I thought of this after seeing them both do the same pinky sense. This may not have much to do with anything, but I just wanted to ask." She paused before gathering herself to air her question. Have any of you felt something weird when your other self was nearby?" The words sunk into every pony for a few seconds. Applejack was the first to reply to every pony's surprise. "You know, now that you mention it, Sugar Cube, I remember having a thought when I first met my other half. It was kind of sort of like a great big hole opened up inside my stomach. At first I just chalked it all up to being scared. But then when he were questioning me and Applebuck asked him to lighten up, he said that he had a funny feeling in his stomach, like there was something off about me." The gears in Twilight's head were churning full force. He did? If you and him were feeling the same thing at the same time... Her pupils were beginning to shrink again. "Dusk. He keeps getting drawn back around the hedge for reasons he didn't know. And every time he was near, I had gotten this lump in my throat." "If it helps any at all," Fluttershy spoke again, "when I met Butterscotch for the first time, I felt something, like a lightness almost, like I could fly away without even flapping my wings." "Huh, that's odd," Dash replied. When she was given a look, she sighed and relented. "When I finally saw Blitz in person, I don't know. It felt like being back at the Best Young Flyers competition. There was a rock the size of one of Applejack's 7-layer apple crumbles resting in the pit of my stomach, weighing me down. My heart positively sung when I laid eyes upon my prince," Rarity sung, foreheads clasping together. "Butterflies abounded within my very being, and he told me that he felt much the same the moment we met. And I bet that thing that Pinky and Berry did a while ago, that whopper of a pinky sense, is what they feel when they get close," Applejack reasoned. "Twilight, are you thinking what I'm thinking? That we all appear to be connected to our doubles in some manner or another?" Twilight sounded rather glum at the conclusion. "Then yes, I think we are. Girls, this hedge isn't going to cut it any more. If we can't get home by tomorrow night, then we're going to have to move. Maybe to another town. I hear Philadelphia's nice this time of year, isn't it? Or, hey, we could head for Manhattan. Except this time to stay." "Twilight," Rainbow found herself most crushed by the tone in her friend's voice. "You're not sounding very hopeful here." "I'm being a realist," was the reply. "If we're all going to be affected by each other's proximity, then the only other recourse is to distance ourselves. I mean, I have every confidence that we'll get home tomorrow, but still it doesn't hurt to plan ahead." "Twilight," Fluttershy spoke again, Is there really a point to us hiding any more?" The lavender pony bit her lip. I don't think that's not what I... "The darling woman makes a point," Rarity stated. "With Ponyville having been repeatedly barraged by our appearances outside, and with the threat of party doom rearing its head whenever Pinky and Berry meet, it seems to me that any hope of future concealment we may have wished for is rather moot. You're saying we should come out of hiding on purpose?" "That seems to be the case they're pleadin'," Applejack drawled, walking up to the next to the unicorn. "Show ourselves, explain things, get some help. Maybe see if their prince is as willing as Celestia and will help us get back." Twilight screwed her eyes shut. "What? No. I can't just give up like that. They're looking for us for a reason. You heard Dusk. They think we're some sort of invasion force. I mean, we've even taken a prisoner." Again she gestured at Angela. "Excuse me. We'll be tied up and tossed in their prison, not to mention banished and then being banished again. We might even... Sugar Cube. Stop." Twilight did, blinking as she noticed that her friends were all looking at her with worried expressions of varying degrees. The farmer had placed her hoof on one of her shoulders, locking her green eyes on the student's face. Hun, I ain't no psychiatrist, but even I know an excuse when I hear one. You're scared. You're more than scared than a lot of us were together of your cult self. You're the only one of us left now who's not met their other half yet. And I can see you're digging your hooves in deeper and deeper, the more and more likely that meeting becomes. Hey, Dash spoke up as well, trying to stand next to her friend. Twy, I'm not happy with the idea of having to face that my other self again either. But if it means a guaranteed chance of getting back to our home world, then I'm willing to put up with it. Besides, they're not, like, evil or anything, Pinky stated. They're just ponies like us. The magician sighed, his ears down. I don't know, girls. I mean, yeah, technically I could, but still, She trailed off, eyes directed to the floor, at a loss for words. She felt the blush of shame touching her face as she realized how true their words were ringing. She knew they were right, but that still didn't change how she felt. A few seconds of silence passed before Rarity breathed out a sigh. Now, girls. Twilight, I can see that we're putting undue pressure on you. I do apologize for my part. If you truly wish for us to remain hidden, then I shall remain by your decision. Applejack kicked at an errant rock before nodding as well. I still think we should go with the better chance, but if it means that much to you, hun, I'll trust you. The unicorn looked towards Rainbow, seeking her opinion. She got a shrug. It's all right. I don't mind waiting some more. Gives me more time to catch up on my napping anyway, the Pegasus said nonchalantly. I'm with you, Twilight, the party pony quipped, giving her friend a look that spoke volumes about the trust she had. I know I've been a silly pony today, but there's no pony else I'd trust when it comes to epic adventure big-timey choices. At last, Twilight glanced toward Fluttershy, who was in the process of delivering a carrot to Angela. The rabbit made a motion as if to refuse, but a miniature stomach growl signaled her surrender, and she scooped up the veggie and began to munch. Fluttershy, I'm sorry, but The butter pony looked over at her and gave her as much a smile as she could muster. I'm still with you, Twilight. You're my friend, and I could never abandon you. But sometimes you need to be aware that if we're not able to go home, well, there are lines that you have to keep from crossing, besides the ones we've already... She glanced over to the hutch before directing her gaze to the floor. Dash sighed, foreseeing the moment before turning tail and flying out of the hedge, reassuming guard duty. As the rest of the girls broke up, occupying themselves with other tasks, the Lavender Unicorn remained seated next to her as they watched their captive. I know, Fluttershy. I'm sorry. I promise I won't let it happen again. A pink mane bobbed in reply with a nod, though she could tell that those eyes were still turned down. To be continued. Holy crap, that was a long chapter. Wow. How long is that compared to, like, the other ones? That's not even the longest. Wow. Holy crap. Alright, we've done one longer one, but we still have one slightly longer one to go later on. Holy crap, this is a huge story. Alright. And I'm sure, like me, you were all voting on Fluttershy and Butterscotch getting together. That's absolutely... It's so, like, unbearably adorable. I can't even handle it. Alright. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this chapter. My throat feels super raw right now, so I'm probably going to stop talking here pretty soon. So... As always, thank you guys for listening, for commenting, and liking, and favoriting, and subscribing, and recommending, and telling your friends, and everything. And don't forget to check out the auditions, and submit something if you would like to, and let your friends know about it if you think they'd be interested. Post a link to the video on whatever sites you frequent. I'm totally fine with that. If you're like a Tumblr or a Twitterer or a Redditor or a Pinterest or something like that, let people know. I'm totally fine with that. Um, so yeah. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you next time. So bye.